Tonight, we're taking on a question that sounds abstract until you notice how it touches almost every choice you make during a normal week. Are we creating reality, or is reality creating us? Arguing against the motion holding that reality fundamentally shapes, trains, and constrains us is Dr. Shaw. Arguing for the motion, claiming that what counts as our lived reality is actively constructed by brains, bodies, and cultures, is Dr. Iliya. Stay with us through the pressure test and the lightning round at the end, because we'll give you simple experiments you can run in your own life. If your confidence doesn't wobble at least once before the credits, we haven't done our job. Opening statements. Against the motion, Dr. Shaw, reality creates us.
When I say reality creates us, I mean that there is a stubborn, structured world whose causal powers predate our preferences and outlast our stories, and that world imprints itself on our physiology, our attention, and our habits long before we get the chance to make edits. This is the intuition behind scientific realism, carried forward in critical realism, Roy Bhaskar, and echoed by philosophers like Ian Hacking, who famously said, "If you can spray them, they are real," reminding us that intervention reveals independence. You don't author gravity, glucose, circadian cycles, or viral replication. These things write their signatures into your sleep pressure, your reaction time, and your immune response regardless of what you happen to believe on a given Tuesday. Take 3 mundane checks that almost anyone can test. First, after 2 nights of 4 hours sleep, try to manifest clarity. Your reaction times slow, your cravings spike, and your mood narrows, which shows that biology sets the stage, and your intentions enter only afterward. This is the kind of fact that the scientific image, to borrow Wilfrid Sellers' phrase, makes painfully clear. Second, in aviation, there is the somatogravic illusion, where your inner ear insists the aircraft is pitching up when it isn't, and if you follow the feeling, you can put the nose down and meet the ground. External instruments, which are tied to the world and not to your vestibular story, correct you. And this is a vivid illustration of Karl Popper's hard-nosed lesson that reality falsifies us, not the other way around. Third, when fuel is short and supply chains are knotted, beautiful monetary narratives will not buy bread. Nancy Cartwright calls the world dappled, meaning it runs on localized causal powers, and those powers veto our convenient fictions. Now, I'm not denying that we engineer environments, rename categories, and nudge behavior, of course we do, but that is engineering inside constraints, not authorship of the constraints themselves. Aristotle would have recognized as much in his talk of natures and causes, and modern biopsychology shows why nudges work at all. You are pushing on levers that the environment and evolution installed. So by all means improve your models and your neighborhoods, but don't confuse a better map with the power to move mountains. The mountains move you. Vote. No. Reality creates us.
For the motion, Dr. Iliya, we create reality.
I accept the constraints, but I want to redirect your attention to the fact that the world you can actually inhabit and act in, what you notice first, what you care about, what you remember later, is a world your nervous system actively constructs and your culture continuously enacts, which places me in conversation with Kant's transcendental idea that experience is structured by our categories, with phenomenology, Husserl, Merleau-Ponty, which shows how perception is embodied and world-involving, and with pragmatism, William James, John Dewey, which teaches that truths are what cash out in action. In neuroscience, this shows up as a predictive processing. Think Carl Friston, Andy Clark, where perception is a kind of controlled hallucination that stays honest by minimizing error against incoming signals. And in social theory, it appears in Berger and Luckman's and John Searle's accounts of how we collectively build institutions, money, laws, titles, that then act back on us. Consider how ordinary this construction is once you start looking. In a supermarket, put the snacks at eye level and sales rise. Not because molecules changed, but because salience changed. And I just felt like it is co-authored by shelving, lighting, and labels. At dinner, simply shrinking the plate reduces intake without any heroic willpower, which means the frame you act within is doing half the deciding before your deliberation even wakes up. In the rubber hand illusion, synchronized taps on a fake hand and your hidden real hand can produce a felt sense that the fake one is yours within a minute. And in consumer virtual environments, try-on mirrors, body swap demos, tiny temporal tweaks can make you feel taller or smaller or more confident, which tells us that even the thing we protect most, our felt body, is generated and can be reauthored by timing and context. And online, spend a week clicking home renovation videos and watch your feed, your informational habitat, redecorate itself, after which your priorities, purchases, and even Saturday mornings drift accordingly. You are co-creating the world you later take as simply there, which is close to Nietzsche's perspectivism and Hilary Putnam's internal realism without the jargon. Scaling up, social facts are not mere fantasies. They are institutional realities that exist because we collectively recognize and enforce them, as Searle argued. A passport, a credit score, an academic degree, or a border crossing can turn doors into walls or walls into doors. Constraints matter. Viruses replicate, and gravity continues its quiet work. But within those guardrails, the experienced reality that governs daily action is profoundly constructed, labeled, and designed, and because it is constructed, it is also editable in principled ways. Vote yes. We create reality.
Cross-examination. Let's keep the questions crisp and the answers clean, and let's try to land them where a listener can feel the difference this week.
If our constructed models are so decisive, why do we repeatedly find that instruments and external measurements outperform human gut feeling, not just in cockpits, but in medicine and investing, which suggests that the world, not the model, has the final word?
Because construction is not fantasy. Construction is model building, and models drift when left to themselves. So when we strap our attention to a well-calibrated instrument, we are not abandoning construction, we are reconstructing a better one, which is exactly what a Kantian would predict and what pragmatists celebrate. Truth is what keeps working under pressure. When a teenager's feed narrows to fitness or doom news and over months their sleep schedule, mood, and identity begin to shift, isn't that a live example of a person co-creating the reality that then creates them back?
It is a feedback loop, but it is a loop that works precisely because dopamine systems, circadian clocks, and limited working memory are real, trainable, and finite. The platform shapes the teen because the teen is shapeable by the environment, which underlines my claim that reality's parameters do the heavy lifting. Can a positive mindset lower a 39-degree-Celsius fever in the next hour?
No, and those boundaries matter, yet mindset can change. Pain tolerance, rehab adherence, and sleep hygiene, which alter whether you face that fever next month. So even when you concede constraints, you still find room where construction crafts the corridor you'll walk through. When cities narrow lanes, add speed humps, and redesign intersections, fatalities reliably fall. Do you call that merely obeying physics? Or do you admit that design decisions are authorship of the lived world within physical law?
I call it excellent engineering to constraints, friction, breaking distances, peripheral vision, and human attention. And while I admire the craft, I don't mistake well-chosen levers for sovereignty over the machine.
Rebuttals. Dr. Shaw rebuts Dr. Iliya.
You've heard moving cases, and yet they show precisely why construction is not creation. The rubber hand effect works because multisensory neurons bind sight and touch within narrow timing windows that biology fixed long before the experiment. The plate size effect leans on gastric stretch receptors and hormonal signals like ghrelin and leptin that do not ask for permission, and algorithmic feeds can shape us only because our attentional bottlenecks and reinforcement systems are already tuned by evolution to care about novelty and threat. Social realities, for their part, ride on material rails, electricity, servers, roads, harvests, and when those rails fail, the institutional story pauses, which is what Hacking and Cartwright keep telling us in different keys. Try to push where there is no handle and the world will not move.
Dr. Iliya rebuts Dr. Shaw.
I agree the rails are real. But once you admit that changing frames changes outcomes in systematic, repeatable ways, you have conceded the heart of my claim. Construction is how humans become effective within constraint. Different species carve the shared world into different action-ready slices. Bees see ultraviolet patterns on flowers we can't see. Snakes sense infrared we can't feel, which shows that access to reality is always model-mediated. Cognitive therapies that reframe thoughts, reduce pain, and relapse. Labels on the same wine reliably alter taste reports and even neural signatures. Changing calendar defaults shifts organ donation rates without changing hearts. These are Kuhnian moments at the microscale, where a small paradigm shift, a new default, a new label, a new affordance, reorganizes the field of possible actions. We don't deny matter, we design the interface to it.
Lightning round. 8 experiments you can try this week. These are not thought experiments. These are do them tonight experiments, each making one side of the motion vivid in your body. Instrument over intuition. The next time you feel late and your pulse is up, set a 2-minute timer and just breathe. You will notice how your body's clock mismeasures time, and how an external measure can drag your model back to reality. Shaw's point in miniature. Plate swap. Serve dinner on a smaller plate for 3 nights and log calories without forcing yourself. When energy intake drops with almost no friction, you'll feel how context quietly authors choices. Iliya's point. Constrained by physiology. Sleep first. Go to bed early for 3 nights and track mood and willpower. The rapid shift will remind you that the world of your mind sits on sleep architecture that cares nothing for slogans. Shaw. Home screen pruning. Put a single habit app on page 1, remove everything else to page 2, and watch your fingers and day reroute. It is startling how interface design becomes daily reality. Iliya. Thermostat illusion. Stand close to a cool vent in a warm room and notice comfort rise before the average temperature changes. Perception bends quickly, while the physical field lags, showing both sides of the dance. Both. Label flip. Pour the same wine into 2 bottles labelled House and Reserve. Taste blind on separate nights, and see how meaning scaffolds experience with no molecule altered. Iliya, with a wink to James's pragmatism. Walk versus will. When the afternoon slump hits, take a 15-minute daylight walk instead of giving yourself a pep talk. You will likely find physiology moves mood faster than rhetoric. Shaw. Default power. Make water the default on your desk and move coffee 2 rooms away. By Friday, Your intake graph will illustrate how defaults create behavior that then feels like just me. Iliya, see Thaler and Sunstein for the nudge canon. Pressure test. Name the strongest point on the other side and meet it without hedging. Dr. Shaw.
The strongest pro point is that design choices predictably change outcomes. Roads get safer, plates change diets, screens shape attention, and it is compelling because it's measurable. My answer is that these wins depend entirely on stable properties of friction, human perception, gastric physiology, and reinforcement learning. So what looks like co-creation is really good alignment with the machine the world already built.
Dr. Iliya.
The strongest con-point is that constraints do not negotiate. You cannot affirm your way out of a fever or float off a cliff, which is sobering and true. My answer is that even in that sobering frame, the lived reality that determines which cliffs you meet and which fevers you face is routed through models, labels, and institutions. So while we don't bend gravity, we do build staircases, zoning laws, and emergency rooms. And those constructions are where human freedom actually lives.
Closing statements. Dr. Shaw, against.
We are not authors standing over the world. We are apprentices inside it, and the apprenticeship begins with humility before constraints that do not care what we prefer. Instruments beat hunches, sleep beats slogans, and supply chains beat stories. Respect that order, and you gain leverage. Forget it, and the world will remind you. Vote no. Reality creates us.
Dr. Iliya, 4.
Within the constraints that no one denies, the realities we wake into and navigate every day are constructed, curated, and continually revised by brains that predict, bodies that feel, and cultures that assign meaning, which is why small shifts in frames and defaults reshape lives. We don't conjure planets, but we absolutely author the worlds we inhabit. Vote yes, we create reality.
Cast your vote below. Yes, we create reality, or no, reality creates us. And tell us which 2 experiments you tried and what changed. For deeper dives, look up Kant on the structure of experience, Husserl and Merleau-Ponty on embodiment, William James and John Dewey on pragmatism, Berger and Luckman and John Searle on social construction, and on the realist side, Popper, Hacking, Cartwright and Pasca on why the world pushes back. New debate next week. Subscribe so you don't miss the pressure test.